Hey guys, welcome back. I'm Megan Campbell and this is Making Stuff. So it's now been probably about 2 or 3 months since I got this machine. If you want to see the video where I received this machine, I'll leave a link to that up here. Now I've been wanting to do a couple of follow-up videos since then, but I just haven't gotten around to it yet. So today for my first video concerning this CNC machine, I would like to do a couple of small upgrades. I don't know how many upgrades I'm going to have time for in this video, but I'm going to try and cram in as many as I can. But before I get started with that, I think there are a couple of people that watched my previous video who would like to have a bit of insight into my experience with the machine so far and how it's been running, or whether or not I've had any issues. So for those of you who asked, I'm just going to take a minute or two to run through that. So in general, so far, I'm extremely happy with the performance of this machine. Up until now, it has taken pretty much everything that I've thrown at it, and I've done everything from normal 2D cuts in plywood and in hardwood. I've also done a couple of 3D carvings. I'm currently busy with a project where I'm going to do my first two-sided carving. If there's time in this video, I'll see if I can squeeze that in here at the end. All in all, so far my experience has been a very positive one. So the only problems I've been experiencing so far is that I'm having a bit of oil leakage along my Y-axis. I can't exactly tell where all the oil is coming from, but I can see that it's leaking from the rack and the pinion gear. Now the only place that oil could be coming from is from the linear bearings that are riding on the linear rails. Each one of the linear bearings has got an oil line rigged up to it, and then on the back of the X-axis is an oil reservoir with a pump, which according to the instructions from the manufacturer, I have to pump once each time before I start using the machine. Now there are also a bunch of screw valves right next to the reservoir, but unfortunately there's no way to access the inside of the whole X-axis, so it's very difficult to ascertain where each one of those oil lines are going. By opening up the shoulders on the side of the X-axis, I have been able to tug at the lines and kind of figure out which lines are going where. Currently I have got all of the screw valves turned closed just to see if the leakage stops, so then at least I know that that's where the oil is coming from. So far it seems like I don't have any new oil leaks, so that definitely seems to be where the oil is coming from. So over the next couple of uses of the machine, I'm going to start opening those screw valves a little by little until it starts leaking again, and then I'm just going to turn it back a bit, and hopefully that will sort out that problem. I've also noticed something a little strange here on the left side of the Y-axis. The more I use the machine, the more of this residue starts building up here. At first glance it seems to look a little bit like ash, but upon closer inspection it almost looks as if it's some kind of plastic shavings or something like that. I'm getting a lot of that on the left side and very little on the other side. So I'm not exactly sure what this is from. I think I have cleaned this out once or twice. I'm going to clean this out again and then see how long it takes for it to build up to this amount again. Before I do that, I'm definitely going to take some pictures and some video of this, and I'm going to send it to the suppliers and see if they perhaps have an answer for me on what this could be. So far those are the only issues that I've had. Other than that, the machine is working flawlessly. I can't stress enough that for the price that I paid for this machine, I really don't know if you can get much better. I just last night started following a guy on YouTube who purchased a brand new Laguna machine. I went on Laguna's website, and the cheapest option that they have in this size is over $40,000 US. For that price you can pretty much buy 10 of these machines. Now obviously the Laguna is amazing quality, amazing service. They have service agents come to your premises and show you how the machine works, and even the base model comes with a vacuum table. But all that said, if you're just a one-man band like me, this machine is more than enough. So enough of that, let's get into some of these upgrades. So before we dive into the upgrades that I want to do, let me quickly go over some of the upgrades I've already done. The most notable of which is this spoil board. Now while I'm calling this a spoil board, my aim is to try and not spoil it as much as I can. Now this is obviously not your standard spoil board, as I do not have a vacuum table underneath this, so I need to make use of some kind of hold down. Now coming up with this design was fairly complicated. I would have loved to have made a video about that, but unfortunately there just wasn't enough time. Now the whole idea when making making this spoil board was that I still wanted to be able to use the T-slots that are in the actual table. Now, quite a while before I even made this spoil board, I made a bunch of these hold down clamps which made use of these T-bolts that came with the machine. Now, along with these T-bolts, there were also these metal hold down clamps, but the reason I went ahead and made the wooden ones was in case my tool path wasn't exact, I didn't want my tool to run into this metal hold down clamp, which would obviously ruin the tool, whereas having the tool run into a wooden hold down clamp, I would most probably ruin the clamp, but I would hopefully not ruin the tool. And so far that has definitely proved to be helpful. I have run into these wooden hold down clamps a couple of times, and I'm pretty sure I've saved a couple of tools that way. Now obviously with this new setup with my spoil board, I couldn't use these T-bolts anymore because they do not fit through here into the T-slot. And obviously because I couldn't use these bolts, I had to redesign my whole bolt system. And I came up with this design, which is basically based on a design that I saw from Marius Hornberger on YouTube, where he used T-nuts with 3D printed covers so that he could insert them into the T-slots, and when turning them they would engage, and that way you can tighten them. So obviously this isn't a design I came up with myself, but also that said, it is not exactly the same as his. I did mine a little bit different. If you want to see how he did his, I'll leave a link down in the description below so you can see what he did. But so far these have been working great. So let me get into the first upgrade I want to do in this video. Okay, so the very first upgrade I want to make is to build some kind of home for this controller. Now currently this has no place to live. When the machine is not in use, it'll usually just live here. When I am using the machine, more often than not, it'll just live here on my thickness planers box, which is standing next to the machine. I have a number of times tripped over this cable which sends this controller flying. Now this is a fairly expensive upgrade for this machine, and I definitely don't want to be breaking this. So I'm definitely going to have to come up with some kind of solution. Now I have in fact already worked on a design for this in Fusion 360. I'll overlay that here somewhere while I'm trying to explain what it is. So basically it's just going to have a mounting point over here, and it's going to have basically 3 pivots, one pivot here with an arm going down, pivot at the bottom which comes up to here, and a last pivot which is going to come out over here with a cradle for the controller to lie in. So the idea is basically when the machine is not in use, I can fold it down flat to try and take up as little space as possible, but when I am using it, I can fold it out up nice and high to make it a little bit more comfortable to use. Now this design may be a little bit overkill. I could probably just put in a screw over here and hang it up there, and it would have a place to go. Maybe come up with some bracket over here to wind up the cable, but where's the fun in that? Now I was planning on doing the whole thing on the CNC, but when I started working on the design for this cradle, I figured it was going to be a lot easier to 3D print the cradle. So I finished up that design, and the cradle is already 3D printing upstairs. That is going to take about 10 or 11 hours to finish printing, so I'm only going to have that finished at like midnight tonight. So in the meantime, the rest of the parts I'm going to load onto the machine over here into VCraft Pro and start plotting the tool paths so I can start getting the first parts cut. So while those parts are drying, I'm just quickly going to cut out some washers on the laser, which are going to go between all of the moving parts of the controller arm. To make that, I'm going to use this 0.9mm plastic that I have on hand. This is, I'm guessing, an ABS plastic or something like that. In case you're wondering, I did account for the thickness of these washers in the actual design. So hopefully everything will work out perfectly. So I've already drawn up the design, very simple, obviously just 2 circles. I only need about 6 of them, but I'll probably cut about 8 to 10 just so that I have some spares in case. So I went ahead and sprayed the other side of the parts for the controller arm. Once again, while that's drying, I'm going to get on with the second upgrade that I want to make. Now this is a very small upgrade. These over here are the wrenches that I got with the machine. These are used for the collet in order to change the tools. Now at the moment they're just lying on a shelf here somewhere, but I'd like to have them close to where I usually change the tools. So generally when I change a tool, I'll change it over here at the origin point. So I'd like to make some kind of holder that can hold the tools right over here. Now the specific program that I use for any specific project is totally dependent on the complexity of the project. This is something that's really simple, so I'll use Illustrator and just design it in 2D. But something like the control arm, I could technically also easily do that in Illustrator, but in that specific case I prefer to do it in Fusion 360 because that way I can have a very nice visual representation of what the model is going to look like when it's complete. And also when I'm modeling in Fusion 360 and I have specific parameters set, so I can change things like the thickness of my material, the length of my arms. After I've done the design, I can go and change those parameters and they will update parametrically across the whole model, making it a lot easier. Whereas if I designed it in vector in 2D, if I had to make a change like a thickness or something, there would be a ton of things that I would have to change. So I'm obviously just time-lapsing through all of these designs, but if there are any of you who are interested in seeing more in-depth videos on how I do my designs in either Fusion 360 or in Illustrator, or even how I bring those designs into VCarve Pro and set up my toolpaths, you're more than welcome to ask me down in the comments below, and I can definitely look into making a couple of videos like that in the future. Anyway, let's carry on. Okay, it's getting a bit late now, guys. It's Thursday afternoon, 6 o'clock right now. I'd like to have this video uploaded by the end of tomorrow, which is Friday. So I'm going to spend tonight trying to get all of the editing for this video up to date, so that tomorrow I can go ahead and install this controller arm. I haven't dry fit anything yet, but I do have all of the hardware and all of the parts, and so far it looks like everything's going to go together the way I planned. So I'll check back tomorrow and hopefully we can get this done. Okay guys, I'm going to wrap it up for this episode. I don't know about you, but I would definitely call this a success. All of the plans and upgrades that I made work 100% the way I intended them to, so I'm extremely happy. While there may not be major upgrades, they are definitely welcome additions to my workflow while using this machine. So the controller that I'm using on this machine, I think is called DSP-A11. If you're interested in the STL file to print one of these cradles that I made, I'll put that on my website for a small fee. If you're interested in the whole arm, I'll put that on my website as well, and I'll leave links to those down in the description or in the tag up here. If you don't see them there immediately, just give me a day or two so that I can finalize the files before I put them on the website. So I definitely have a couple more upgrades planned for the machine, one of which is a new shoe for my dust collector. I would like to have one that is independent of the Z-axis so that I can have the dust shoe at the same height at all times, no matter what the Z-axis is doing. So that is probably going to require a whole video, because I'm going to have to come up with some creative ideas on how to do that. But as soon as I figure that out, I will most definitely be sharing it with you. Now, I don't post everything that I make on this machine to my YouTube channel, so if you'd like to see some of the other stuff that I've made and am going to make, you're welcome to follow me on Instagram. All the links are down below. I post most of the things that I make on the machine to my Instagram and my Facebook, so if you follow me on any one of those, then you will definitely be kept up to date with what I'm doing. So with all that said, Thank you very much for watching. I hope you found this video helpful or at least entertaining in some way. If you liked what you saw, go ahead and hit that thumbs up button. If you know of anyone else who would be interested in this, it would be great if you could share this with them. If you have any questions or any ideas or requests for things that you'd like me to make with the machine or upgrades you'd like me to do, drop them down in the comments below. And as always, till next time, keep making stuff.